'Tis the season, you beautiful people. We are in the new season, of course, and we obviously got some pretty darn new weapons, and some of them are actually worth talking about, like the one we're going to be talking about in this video. The weapon we're going to be talking about is a new seasonal weapon. It's not a world drop. It's not from any ritual vendor. It is located at the Spirit of Riven, and you can get it to drop from the new coil seasonal activity, as well as decrypt your Season of the Wish Ingrams into this weapon. The weapon that we are going to be talking about is a craftable strand fusion rifle. Not only is it a craftable strand fusion rifle, but it is actually a rapid fire frame as well, which the community loves rapid fire frame fusion rifles, myself included. But what if I told you that this weapon possesses something that no other rapid fire frame fusion rifle does, and it is finally the first weapon in its class to be doing what it's doing, and we have wanted a fusion rifle like this ever since Controlled Burst was introduced to us in Season 21. That's right, we are talking about a craftable rapid fire frame strand fusion rifle that has Controlled Burst. Talk about a beautiful seasonal weapon to actually go after and chase. While I was playing yesterday inside of the coil activity with a few of my buddies, I was actually lucky enough to go ahead and get this entire weapons pattern. It is called the Scatter Signal, and it is an absolute beauty. Before we dive too far in, remember, if you ever want to get your games and their DLC, which includes the final shape, at a cheaper price, make sure you head over to Instant Gaming. It'll be the top link in the description. All they are trying to do is save you money whenever you pick up a game or that game's DLC. Why buy at full price when you can easily just head over to Instant Gaming and save yourself a decent amount of money? So whenever you decide to pre-order the final shape or any other game in its DLC, make sure to head over to Instant Gaming, save yourself some money. And of course, if you ever want some G Fuel, it'll be right there as well. Keep yourself hydrated, energized while you're gaming and kicking some butt. Code Kree for 20% off at checkout. So let's continue on with the Scatter Signals fusion rifle and talk a little bit more about it. First of all, before we dive straight into this weapon's perk pool, I do want to actually talk about its origin trait, Dragon's Vengeance. When an ally dies or you reach critical health, this weapon's magazine refills and it gains bonus range, charge rate, and handling. Not saying this is some world stopper of an origin trait like my goat cursed thrall. However, this can definitely be useful and come in handy when you least expect it in any form of play, whether it's group play or solo play. Definitely worth mentioning this weapon's origin trait. But now let's go ahead and talk about this weapon's perk pool. As I said earlier, this bad boy is a rapid fire frame fusion rifle, the community's favorite archetype of fusion rifles. This bad boy is looking to take over your Riptide spot, unless you're using it for chill clip purposes, because the Scatter Signal has a lot of things going for it. Alright, here is this weapon's perk pool. As you see, there are definitely some different icons because this is a new weapon and they introduce new perks every single season. So real quick, we'll go over some of the new perks. For instance, in the third column, the new perk that you see here is called Slice. Casting your class ability allows this weapon to sever targets on hit for a brief duration, meaning you have yourself a little utility perk here in case you are in some higher end content, in which sever can definitely be useful on some champions, maybe a mini boss and like a GM, to have them do less damage to you, which can help keep you alive. Now I believe the sever effect is 40% less damage from the enemy that is severed, although if I am a little bit incorrect on there, totally correct me in the comments, but I believe that it is 40% less damage from that target that is severed. You also have the sleeper in line action where dealing damage improves reload and handling. Could be useful in some situations, but I believe the predominant, most sought after perk and the perk that people are going to craft on this weapon the most in the third column has got to be Overflow, as picking up special or heavy ammo is going to automatically load this weapon beyond its normal capacity, which is always really good, meaning you can have a fusion rifle with about 16 rounds in one magazine with Overflow procced, and it's very easy to do so. You don't have to get any kills with other weapons, you just have to pick up an ammo brick, special or heavy. Very good perk, and it's used a lot on special weapons. Now, in the fourth column, one of the new perks is called Deconstruct. although this does not seem to be a PvE perk in the slightest. Dealing sustained damage grants bonus damage against vehicles and constructs and partially refills the magazine. Damage with primary ammo against constructs provides additional progress. Yeah, bro, not a PvE perk in the slightest. This also does have the new perk Attrition Orbs, where dealing sustained damage creates an orb of power. Pretty cool as well. However, this is a fusion rifle. And what is the main perk that jumps right at you from that fourth column? Of course, it's going to be Controlled Burst. Upon scoring a kill or hitting every shot in a burst, it's going to grant you 20% increased damage and 10% decreased charge time. And it is very easy to keep this buff up once you shoot that first shot of your fusion rifle, especially on a rapid fire frame. That just makes it even easier. And like I said earlier in the video at the very start, this is the first rapid fire frame fusion rifle in the game to get Controlled Burst. What a W. Now, yes, strand and stasis special weapons are going to do about 15% less base damage than a kinetic special weapon. However, since there are a big old goose egg donut of fusion rifles that can actually be ran in the kinetic slot, this fusion rifle's only competition is against other stasis or strand fusion rifles that you can actually use in the kinetic slot. Stuff like the Nox Perennial, the Deliverance, and the Riptide. I mentioned the Deliverance because it's the only bait and switch fusion rifle that we have in the game, even if it is a precision frame fusion rifle. So at least wanted to mention it. And since this is a rapid fire frame with Controlled Burst, this means you have 3 ways of making an already short charge time even shorter, because Controlled Burst, that's going to give you the 10% decreased charge time as long as you are shooting the target. You can then go ahead and craft accelerated coils to decrease your charge time by 40 milliseconds. And then you can, of course, craft the enhanced trait of charge time, basically as its masterwork. And with all of that, you can get this charge time down to 460. That is insanely quick. And that 460 charge time does not include when Controlled Burst is proc, which means while Controlled Burst is proc, you can actually get this charge time to about 414 milliseconds, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe is the fastest firing fusion rifle in the game. Unless you're Pocket Infinity from D1. Yo, shout out Pocket Infinity, my boy. I hope that exotic never comes back. But you put all of this together in one weapon, you have yourself one heck of a monster. On top of that, this season, in the seasonal artifact, we have Unraveling Orbs, which is basically volatile flow for strand weapons, where whenever you pick up an orb of power, your strand weapons are just going to automatically get unraveling rounds, which makes this thing an absolute beast. Even better than it already is with its base roll and perks. Definitely worth the chase and getting this weapons pattern and go ahead and crafting your god roll. And unlike the Nox Perennial, which is a world drop that just recently became somewhat dedicatedly farmable through lost sectors, you have a direct path to get the exact roll you want on this weapon, which I believe is always a plus when making a weapon review and telling people how good a weapon is. It's how easy is it to actually get the perks on the weapon, get the right roll that you want in order for the weapon to be as good as it can. And since this weapon is a seasonal craftable weapon, it gets an S in that department. And if you compare it to its main competition, which is definitely going to be something like the Riptide, as they are both rapid fire frame fusion rifles that go in the kinetic slot, the Riptide's best damage perks in column 4 are Vorpal Weapon or Frenzy. Chill Clip is more of a utility perk, and since the Scatter Signal is a new weapon, it has access to Controlled Burst, which is a 20% damage buff on top of making your charge time quicker. Meaning if you're going to use a Riptide or the Scatter Signal for DPS in a damage phase or anything like that, you're better off with the Scatter Signal. You'll be able to get it to fire even faster, and it has a better damage perk. What's not to like about this strand rapid fire frame fusion rifle? Because there is everything to love about this bad boy. Remember, check out Instant Gaming if you do want to get any games and their DLC for a cheaper price, which includes the final shape. You guys take care. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this weapon. Consider subscribing, and we'll see your beautiful faces in the next one. Adios!